to my channel. I'm Shauna and I'm here for another daily Bible reading in our Chronological Bible. So let's say our prayer and get started. Lord, thank you for every single soul who can hear my voice. I pray for them, their family, and everyone they know and love. Please give us wisdom, knowledge, and understanding for today to comprehend your text and gain some insight and inspiration we can apply in our lives today. In Jesus' name, amen. All right, happy Monday, by the way. Marvelous Monday. I hope so far it's been a great day. All right, my friends. So today's Bible reading is going to cover Judges 3. We're starting on the last verse in chapter 3 because we read all of 3 yesterday except for one little verse, but we'll get to that. And we got to read through 6, and 6 is pretty long, so let's just get going. I'll do a really quick review from yesterday. So yesterday we started the book of Judges, and we had to read chapters 1 through 3. And as a quick side note, Judges is a book that covers several hundreds of years of Israelite history. So when we're reading it, or at least for me, when I was reading it, I'm just like, gosh, it's like war, rest, war, rest. But mind you, that is over several hundred of years. So it's, it's not just like a 5-year thing going on here. All right, so my quick review of chapter 1. It was broken down into the continued conquest of the promised land, because if you remember, the promised land wasn't fully conquered. In fact, 7 tribes had yet to receive their inheritance there. And so it was all about the conquest. After Joshua's death, the tribes of Judah and Simeon made war against the Canaanites and the Perizzites. At Bezek, they killed 10,000 enemies and captured the local king named Adoni-Bezek. The Israelites cut off Adoni-Bezek's big toe and thumbs. That was interesting. This was done because Adoni-Bezek had previously cut off the toes and thumbs of 70 other kings. So there's that retribution / karma. After conquering Bezek, the Israelites fought at Jerusalem, in the Negev, in the hill country, in Hebron, and Deborah. Caleb promised his daughter Ashon in marriage to the man who captured the city of Deborah. Othniel, Caleb's younger brother, captured the city and married Ashan. Caleb gave Ashan's land to the Negev along with the upper springs. Remember, the wife was like, he said, what would you like, my wife? And she was on the ready. I'll take the upper springs and the lower springs. Thank you very much. I thought that was funny. I'm like, oh yeah, you husbands ask the wife, what do we want? You know, we have an answer. I keep a list somewhere, right? Other cities captured by the Israelites included Zapheth, Gaza, Ashkelon, Ekron, and Bethel. And then chapter 1 ended with just being notable. Israel neglects to drive out all the idolatrous nations, and that's going to come back and haunt them. Of course, we know it just has to, because God told them to do it, and they didn't do it. So, all right, that was chapter 1, according to me and my study. I got some good study notes, by the way. All right. Chapter 2 was the rebuke of the angel of the Lord. So God showed up in chapter 2 in God form, angel form. The angel of the Lord spoke to the people of Israel at Bochum and rebuked them for not honoring their covenant with God. God specifically commanded them not to make peace with the foreign inhabitants of the promised land and to destroy all their places of worship, but the Israelites didn't obey. The angel of the Lord told them the remaining pagan nations would become thorns and snares to them, and God would not help them, and God would not help Israel drive them out. So he's letting them know, you're going to get it for, not driving them out of the land. Here's your consequences. In response, the Israelites wept, offered sacrifices to God, and named the place Bochum. Something else, the death of Joshua's generation was noted in chapter 2. So the people of Israel served the Lord all the days of Joshua and all the days of the elders who knew Joshua. But after Joshua's generation was gathered to their fathers, meaning killed or died. A new generation that arose didn't respect God. And me and my brother was talking about that yesterday. Hey, Jamar, of the wise counsel dying off, and these young bucks coming along, and they just out of control. Reminds me of something right now. But the cycle of sin is something that we were introduced to in chapter 2, and it will be a prevalent repeat throughout this book, because the cycle of sin is basically they stop honoring God and listening to God. God allows them to get punished. Then they're all sorrowful and they come running back to God. And then God is merciful and eventually sends another judge to deliver them from their enemies. So that's the cycle of sin. That's chapter 2. And now chapter 3 kind of went like this. Israel fails to drive out the inhabitants of the promised land. Verses 1 through 5 in chapter 3. God wanted all the non-Israelites expelled from the promised land, but Israel didn't obey. Othniel, the first judge of Israel, we meet in chapter 3. Othniel, the first judge of Israel. The people did evil in the sight of the Lord. They intermarried with the idol-worshiping foreigners and abandoned God to worship the Baals and Atheroth, which are idol gods. God allowed the Cushan king of Mesopotamia to subjugate Israel for 8 years. So they were basically, under a cruel thumb for 8 years. And then then the judge Othniel, the younger brother of Caleb, came and helped them. And then the Spirit of God was on him, and they were defeated. And then the land had 40 years of peace. And then we see the second judge towards the end of chapter 3, Ehud. He's the second judge of Israel. And the Israelites again disobeyed God again. So God gave them up to the Midianites for 18 years. They were oppressed. And then here comes Ehud, and he helped rally an army against the Moabites and won their freedom. And then they had peace for 80 years. So it's this 18 years of disobedience. And so they're under the thumb of the Midianites. But once they were conquered by Ehud and the army, they had 80 years of peace. So that's a lot of generations. Wow. Shamgar, the third judge of Israel, we also met towards the end of, in verse 31. Shamgar delivered the Israelites from the oppression of the Philistines. One of the only things we know about Shamgar is that he killed 600 Philistines with an ox goad to save Israel. So I read that because it was still attached to my chapter 3 summary, but we didn't even read that because that's the last verse we're going to start with today. So there you have it. There's a preview for what chapter 3, verse 31 is. In fact, I'll just go ahead and get started with the reading. All right, in our chronological Bible, Judges 3, verse 31. After him was Shamgar, the son of Anath, who killed 600 of the Philistines with an ox goad and also saved Israel. So I looked up what's an ox goad, and it said that an ox goad is like a long plank of wood with spears or something in it with points, and they use them to kind of herd the oxen. So he killed 600 people with an ox goad. Wow, Shamgar. That's the third judge. The third judge. All right, here we go, friends. Lots of reading. We're on Judges 4. Deborah and Barak. I want to say Barak, of course, so I might go back and forth by saying Deborah and Barak, but the way the Bible pronounced it was Barak. So Deborah and Barak. And the people of Israel again did what was evil in the sight of the Lord after Ehud died, and the Lord sold them into the hand of the Jabin king of Canaan, who reigned in Hazor. The commander of the army was Sisera, who lived in Hashereth. Then the people of Israel cried out to the Lord for help, for he had 900 chariots of iron, and he oppressed the people of Israel cruelly for 20 years. So that's 20 years of oppression. All right, let's keep going. Verse 4. Now Deborah, a prophetess, we see our first female judge. Deborah the prophetess, the wife of Lapidoth was judging Israel at the time. She used to sit under the palm of Deborah between Ramah and Bethel in the hill country of Ephraim, and the people of Israel came up to her for judgment. So she sat at the halfway point, because remember, some of the tribes lives outside of the promised land. So she sat kind of in the middle underneath a tree being the judge. And so they come up to her underneath the tree. Verse 6, she sent and summoned Barak, the son of Adamam from Kadesh, Naphtali, and said to him, has not the Lord, the God of Israel, commanded you? Go gather your men at Mount Tabor, taking 10,000 from the people of Naphtali and the people of Zebulun. 7, and I will draw out Sisera, the general of Jabin's army, to meet you by the river Kishon with his chariots and his troops, and I will give him into your hand. Barak said to her, if you will go with me, I will go, but if you will not go with me, I will not go. And she said, I will surely go with you. Nevertheless, the road on which you are going will not lead to your glory, for the Lord will sell Sisera into the hand of a woman. Then Deborah arose and went with Barak to Kadesh, and Barak called out to Zebulun and Naphtali to Kadesh, and 10,000 men went up at his heels, and Deborah went with him. 11. Now Heber the Kenite had separated from Kenites, the descendants of Habab, the father-in-law of Moses, and had pitched his tent as far away as the oak in Zanim, which is near Kadesh. There's some names here, friends. I'm trying to read slow to pronunciate well. 12. When Sisera was told that Barak, the son of Adimam, had gone up to Mount Tabor, Sisera called out all his chariots, 900 chariots of iron, and all the men who were with him, from Hazeroth to the river Kishon. And Deborah said to Barak, up, for this is the day in which the Lord has given Sisera into your hand. Does not the Lord go out before you? So Barak went down from Mount Tabor with 10,000 men following him. And the Lord routed Sisera and all his chariots and all his army before Barak by the edge of the sword. And Sisera got down from his chariot and fled away on foot. And Barak pursued the chariots and the army to Heshdeth, and all the army of Sisera fell by the edge of the sword. Not a man was left. Did you catch that? The king jumped off his horse and ran away, and his army was killed. So now they're going to be hunting down the king Sisera. 17. But Sisera fled away on foot to the tent of Jael, the wife of Heber the Kenite, for there was peace between Jabin, the king of Hazar, and the house of Heber the Kenite. And Jael came out to meet Sisera and said to him, turn aside, my lord, turn aside to me, don't be afraid. So he turned aside to her into the tent, and she covered him with a rug. And he said to her, please give me a little water to drink, for I am thirsty. So she opened a skin of milk and gave him a drink and covered him. And he said to her, stand at the opening of the tent, and if any man comes and asks you, is anyone here? Say no. But Jael, the wife of Heber, took a tent peg and took a hammer in her hand. Then she went softly to him and drove the peg into his temple until it went down into the ground while he was laying fast asleep from weariness. So he died. Ooh, did y'all catch that? That is a brutal, brutal way to die. She drove a peg tent into his head until it went into the ground while he was asleep. So there's the female that Deborah said would help the army out in the beginning. Wow. 22. And behold, as Barak was pursuing Sisera, Jael went out to meet him and said to him, come, and I will show you the man whom you are seeking. So he went into her tent, and there lies Sisera dead with the tent peg, in his temple. 23. So on that day, God subdued Jabin, the king of Canaan, before the people of Israel. And the hand of the people of Israel pressed harder and harder against Jabin, the king of Canaan, until they destroyed Jabin, king of Canaan. Ooh-wee. All right, let's keep going. We got a lot of reading. So, like I said, I'll review tomorrow. Chapter 5, Judges. The song of Deborah and Barak. So now there's a song because they just had a victory. They just killed the king. So now they're singing about it. Then sang Deborah and Barak, the son of Adimam, on that day, that the leaders took the lead in Israel, that the people offered themselves willingly. Bless the Lord. Hear, O kings, give ear, O princes, to the Lord I will sing. I will make melody to the Lord, the God of Israel. Lord, when you went out from Seir, when you marched from the region of Edom, the earth trembled and the heavens dropped. Yes, the clouds dropped water. The mountains quaked before the Lord, even Sinai before the Lord, the God of Israel. In the days of Shamgar, son of Anath, in the days of Jael, the highways were abandoned and travelers kept to the byways. The villagers ceased in Israel. They ceased to be until I arose. I, Deborah, arose as a mother in Israel. When new gods were chosen, then war was in the gates. Was shield or spear to be seen among 40,000 in Israel? My heart goes out to the commanders of Israel who offered themselves willingly among the people. Bless the Lord. 10. Tell of it, you who ride on white donkeys, you who sit on rich carpets, and you who walk by the way. To the sound of musicians at the watering places, there they repeat the righteous triumphs of the Lord, the righteous triumphs of the villagers in Israel. Then go down to the gates, march to the people of the Lord. Awake, awake, Deborah, awake. Break out in song, arise, Barak. Lead away your captives, O son of Adimam. Then down marched the remnants of the noble. The people of the Lord marched down for me against the mighty. From Ephraim, their root, they marched down into the valley, following you, Benjamin, with your kinsmen. From Machar marched down the commanders, and from Zebulun, those who bear the lieutenant's staff. The princes of Issachar came with Deborah, and Issachar faithful to Barak. Into the valley they rushed at his heels. Among the clans of Reuben, there were great searchings of heart. Why did you sit among the sheepfolds to hear the whistling for your flocks? Among the clans of Reuben, there were great searchings of heart. Gilead stayed beyond the Jordan, and Dan, why did they stay with their ships? Asher sat still at the coast of the sea, staying by his landings. Zebulun is a people who risk their lives to the death, Naphtali too, on the heights of the field. So I'm going to pause real quick because there's a call out going on here, right there in the song. So the clans of Reuben fought, but the clans of Reuben didn't come and fight. I'm going to research that so I can make sure I say it right. But she's calling out the clans who didn't join them in this battle. So I'm not going to try to say it now because I don't want to say it wrong. I want to make sure I give you the right information. But it's kind of hard for me to read and to really comprehend. Sometimes I got to go back and reread. So anyway, that's just me. I'll admit I'm a slow learner. 19. The kings came, they fought. Then fought the kings of Canaan at Tanakh by the waters of Medigo. They got no spoils of silver. From heaven the stars fought. From their courses they fought against Sisera. The torrent Kishon swept them away. The ancient torrent, the torrent Kishon, march on my soul with might. Then the loud beat of horses' hooves with the galloping of its steeds. Course Meroz, says the angel of the Lord, curse its inhabitants thoroughly, because they did not come out to help of the Lord against the mighty. There was a curse Verse 23, curse Mirzah, says the angel of the Lord, curse its inhabitants thoroughly, because they did not come to the help of the Lord, to the help of the Lord against the mighty. Okay, let me keep going. 24, most blessed of women of Jael, the wife of Heber, the Kenite, of tent-dwelling women, most blessed. He asked for water, and she gave him milk. She brought him curds in a noble's bowl. She sent her hand to the tent peg, and her right hand to the workman's mallet. She struck Sisera. She crushed his head. She shattered and pierced his temple. Between her feet he sank. He fell. He lay still. Between her feet he sank. He fell. Where he sank, there he fell dead. And remember yesterday I did warn you, the book of Judges is very, very graphic. You know, hey, the Bible is full of all the reading your heart would desire. Graphic novels, history, biography, murder if you're into murder, crime. The Bible has it all. Enjoy. So anyway, not to make light of it, but yeah, just a reminder there. It's pretty graphic. 28. Out of the window she peered. The mother of Sisera wailed through the lattice. Why is his chariot so long in coming? Why tarry the hoofbeats of his chariot? Her wisest princess answered, indeed, she answers herself. Have they not found and divided the spoil? A womb or two for every man? Spoil of dyed materials for Sisera? Spoil of dyed materials embroidered? 2 pieces of dyed work embroidered for the neck as spoils? 31. So may all your enemies perish, O Lord, but your friends be like the sun as he rises in his might. And the land had rest for 40 years. Wow, so that's the song of Deborah and Barak, and they're celebrating this victory that they just had. And again, I'll, do a little more recap tomorrow, but we'll move on. All right, last chapter, chapter 6. It's pretty long. Midian oppresses Israel. The people of Israel did what was evil in the sight of the Lord. Okay, so let me go back real quick. We just finished that chapter, right? The Deborah song. So I just want to do a quick recap again before we move on. And the land had rest for 40 years. Okay, so 40 years they've been chilling, they've been resting, and mind you, there's quite a few more generations coming up, right? And now check out our opening sentence. The people of Israel did what was evil in the sight of the Lord, and the Lord gave them into the hand of the Midians for 7 years. So after their 40 years of peace, they got to acting up again, worshiping false gods and blah, blah, blah. And God is now letting them be oppressed by the Midianites for 7 years of oppression. So verse 2. And the hand of Midian overpowered Israel. And because of Midian, the people of Israel made for themselves the dens that are in the mountains and the caves and the strongholds. 3. For whenever the Israelites planted crops, the Midianites and the Amalekites and the people of the east would come up against them. They would encamp against them and devour the produce of the land as far as Gaza, and leave no subsistence in Israel, and no sheep or ox or donkey. For they would come up with their livestock and their tents. They would come out like locusts in numbers. Both they and their camels could not be counted, so that they laid waste in the land as they came in. And Israel was brought very low because of Midian. And the people of Israel cried out to the Lord for the Lord's help. All right, so again, that cycle of sin. Verse 7, when the people of Israel cried out to the Lord on account of the Midianites, the Lord sent a prophet to the people of Israel, and he said to them, Thus says the Lord, the God of Israel, I led you up from Egypt and brought you out of the house of slavery, and I delivered you from the hand of the Egyptians and from the hand of all who oppressed you, and drove them out before you and gave you their land. And I said to you, I am the Lord your God. You shall not fear the gods of the Amorites in whose land you dwell, but you have not obeyed my voice. So God is answering their call, but he's saying, hey, you won't listen to me. right? All right, 11, the call of Gideon. Now the angel of the Lord came and sat under the terebinth at Orpha, which belonged to Joash at Abiezrite, while his son Gideon was beating out wheat in the winepress to hide it from the Midianites. And the angel of the Lord appeared to him and said to him, "The Lord is with you, O mighty man of valor." And Gideon said to him, "Please, my Lord, if the Lord is with us, why then has all this happened to us? And where are all his wonderful deeds that our fathers recounted to us, saying, 'Did not the Lord bring us out from Egypt?' But now the Lord has forsaken us and given us into the hand of Midian." And the Lord turned to him and said, "Go in this might of yours and save Israel from the hand of Midian. Do not I send you?" 15, and he said to him, "Please, Lord, how can I save Israel? Behold, my clan is the weakest in Manasseh, and I am the least in my father's house." 16, and the Lord said to him, "But I will be with you, and you shall strike the Midianites as one man." And he said to him, "If now I have found favor in your eyes, then show me a sign that it is with you I speak." 18, "Please do not depart from here until I come to you and bring out my present and set it before you." And he said, "I will stay till you return." So Gideon's having this conversation with God in angel form, and God is saying, "Hey, I'm calling you," because he called out saying, "Lord, where are you? Help us against these Midianites." And he's like, "Okay, I'm gonna send you. I'm gonna send you." And he's like, "What? Why would you do that?" So he's asking God for a sign. So God's preparing to give him a sign. Verse 19. We're in Judges chapter 6. It's pretty long, so hang in there if you can. 19. "So Gideon went into his house and prepared a young goat and unleavened cakes from an ephah of flour. The meat he put in a basket, and the broth he put in a pot, and brought them to him under the terebinth and presented them. And the angel of God said to him, 'Take the meat and the unleavened cakes and put them on this rock, and pour the broth over them.' And he did so. Then the angel of the Lord reached out the tip of the staff that was in the hand and touched the meat and the unleavened cakes. And fire sprang up from the rock and consumed the meat and unleavened cakes. And the angel of the Lord vanished from his sight. Then Gideon perceived that he was the angel of the Lord. And Gideon said, 'Alas, O Lord God, for now I have seen the angel of the Lord face to face.' But the Lord said to him, 'Peace be to you. Do not fear. You shall not die.' 24. Then Gideon built an altar there to the Lord and called it, 'The Lord is Peace.' To this day it stands at Orpha, which belongs to the Abiezrites. Verse 25. That night the Lord said to him, 'Take your father's bull and the second bull 7 years old, and pull down the altar of Baal that your father has, and cut down the Asherah that is beside it, and build an altar to the Lord your God on the top of the stronghold there, with stones laid in due order. Then take the second bull and offer it as a burnt offering with the wood of the Asherah that you shall cut down.' So Gideon took 10 men of his servants and did as the Lord had told him. But because he was too afraid of his family and the men of the town to do it by day, he did it by night." Wow, let's unpack it just a little bit, because so God gave him his sign. He set the fire to the food that he had put out, right? And so that gave Gideon confidence to go tear down the altar, because his father, I just caught that, take your father's bull and the second bull 7 years old, and pull down the altar of Baal that your father has. So his father has a graven image, an idol. And so he's telling him, go pull it down. And so he's going to go do it, but he's going to do it at night, because of course he's still afraid. Even though God has showed him the sign, he's still afraid, which, is understandable. So he went at night. Okay. 28. Gideon destroys the altar of Baal. 28. When the men of the town rose early in the morning, behold, the altar of Baal was broken down, and the Ashereth beside it was cut down, and the second bull was offered on the altar that had been built. And they said to one another, who has done this thing? And after they had searched and inquired, they said, Gideon, the son of Joash, has done this thing. Then the men of the town said to Joash, bring out your son that he may die, for he has broken down the altar of Baal and cut down the Ashereth beside it. But Joash said to all who stood against him, will you contend for Baal, or will you save him? Whoever contends for him shall be put to death by morning. If he is a god, let him contend for himself, because his altar has been broken down. Therefore on that day Gideon was called Jerubbaal, that is to say, let Baal contend against him, because he broke down his altar. Now all the Midianites and the Amalekites and all the people of the east came together, and they crossed the Jordan and encamped in the valley of Jezreel. But the Spirit of the Lord clothed Gideon, and he sounded the trumpet, and the Abiezrites were called out to follow him. 35. And he sent messengers throughout all Manasseh, and they too were called out to follow him. And he sent messengers to Asher, Zebulun, and Naphtali, and they went up to meet him. Okay, I'll pause just real quick. That altar controversy. I like how Gideon's father, kept him from getting killed, because he said, well, don't try to kill my son. If this is really a god, then the god should get vengeance on my son, thus proving that it's a false god, it's worthless god, it's an idol, it's a graven image. A graven image can't fight for itself. I love that. All right, nearing the end. We're almost there. The sign of the fleece. 36. Then Gideon said to God, if you will save Israel by my hand, as you have said, behold, I am laying a fleece of wool on the threshing floor. If there is dew on the fleece alone, and it is dry on all the ground, then I shall know that you will save Israel by my hand, as you have said. And it was so. When he rose early the next morning and squeezed the fleece, he wrung enough dew from the fleece to fill a bowl of water. Then Gideon said to God, let not your anger burn against me. Let me speak once more. Please let me test just once more with the fleece. Please let it be dry on the fleece only, and on the ground let there be dew. And God did so that night, and it was dry on the fleece only, and on all the ground there was dew. So Gideon's like, I just need one more sign. So the sign that he gave him on the altar with the food wasn't enough. So now, and he proved it with the victory. He allowed him to, not get killed from breaking down that altar of Baal. So he's like, I need another sign though. And so he's like, and I even wrote it down to make sure I don't say it wrong, because it's kind of, to me, it's a little bit humorous. Gideon said, let the wool be wet and the ground dry. So God did it. He let the wool be wet and the ground stay dry. And so the next day he's like, one more sign. Please don't be angry, God, but I just need one more sign to know that you're real and that you're really telling me to do this. So now the wool is dry and the ground is wet. Isn't that funny? All right, friends. Well, that was pretty long, but I warned you ahead of time. It is a long chapter. I'll do a quick review for tomorrow, and then we'll get going. All right. I do have some quick church announcements, if you don't mind. Hey, and don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. I don't know if I can do it that way anyway. Youngstown, Ohio, Beauty Baptist. Hey, y'all. Couple birthdays. So my dear friend Brenda, her birthday is today. My Facebook friend Brenda. Hey Brenda, we met a year or two ago on a cruise and been in touch ever since. And we're both dancers, so. and she's, she's probably, I'm not going to say her age, but she's a bit older than me, and she's still out there. You go, Brenda. I hope you had a great birthday this weekend. I saw your family took you out to dinner. That's awesome. My good childhood friend from high school, Nikki, Her husband, Rodney, had a birthday today. Hey, Miss Cameron. Happy birthday, Mr. Rodney. I hope it's a good one. Be sweet, Nikki. It's his birthday. Be sweet. And my Facebook friend, Frank. Hey, Frank. He has a birthday today. And my dear friend Stephanie in Seattle. Hey, Steph. We're like family. Me and her sister are BFFs. Hey, Carolyn. Stephanie's grandson, Bubba, turned 8. One thing that I really like about Facebook, which is why I'm still on it after all these years, and some of you, especially if you're my age-ish, you probably feel the same way. I would never remember any of these birthdays if it wasn't for Facebook. So thank you, Facebook, and thank you all for your attention and time today. So I'll leave you with today's scripture straight from the Bible app, and it comes from Philippians 2, verse 13. For it is God who works in you both to will and to work for his good pleasure. So the God in you. All right, friends. Well, I hope you enjoy that, and I hope you enjoy your day today. Go and finish off this marvelous Monday, and if you can, come back tomorrow, okay? Thank you. Bye. My little thumb in the way.